The alarm system screamed through the bridge of the eternal horizon. Captain's fingers moved across the control panel with practiced speed as he tried to understand what his sensors were telling him. The numbers made no sense. 300 contacts. 300 warships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, surrounding his small scout vessel like wolves circling prey. Was a veteran of deep space. He had spent 15 years patrolling the frontier between human territory and the unknown regions of the galaxy. He had seen pirates, smugglers, and the occasional aggressive alien probe, but he had never seen anything like this. The ships that surrounded him were massive, each one 10 times the size of his vessel. Their weapons were already charging, energy readings climbing higher with each passing second. His communications officer was dead. A malfunction during their last jump had killed her instantly. His engineer was in the medical bay, unconscious from the same accident, was alone on the bridge, staring at a situation that should have been impossible. Scout ships like his were designed to avoid trouble, not fight entire fleets. They were fast, lightly armed, and meant to run at the first sign of danger. But there was nowhere to run. The enemy ships had positioned themselves perfectly, blocking every escape route. His hand hovered over the distress beacon, then pulled back. A distress call would take 3 days to reach the nearest human colony. He would be dead long before help could arrive. The communication system crackled to life. A face appeared on his screen, reptilian and cold. The alien scales were dark green, its eyes yellow with vertical pupils. When it spoke, the translation software turned its hissing language into words could understand. Human vessel, you are surrounded by the third Armada of the Dominion. Your kind has violated our territory for the last time. Power down your weapons and surrender your ship. If you comply, your death will be quick. If you resist, we will make you suffer before we destroy you. You have 1 minute to decide. The face disappeared. Sat in his command chair, looking at the tactical display. 300 ships. He had 6 missiles, 2 laser cannons, and shields that were already damaged from the jump malfunction. The mathematics of survival were simple and brutal. There was no scenario where he lived through the next hour. He thought about his sister, who commanded a destroyer on the other side of human space. He thought about his parents on Earth, who had begged him not to join the scout service. He thought about the quiet life he could have had, teaching history at a university somewhere safe and boring. Then he thought about what would happen if he surrendered. They would take his ship, study its technology, and learn the locations of human colonies. They would use that information to kill thousands, maybe millions. His death meant nothing if it helped them hurt his people. His hands moved across the controls. He diverted all power from life support to shields and weapons. The temperature in the bridge immediately began to drop. He had maybe 20 minutes of air left, but he did not plan to need it. His fingers flew over the tactical system, programming attack patterns and evasive maneuvers. He activated the emergency beacon, but not as a distress call. Instead, he set it to record everything, every sensor reading, every tactical decision, every moment of what was about to happen. "Computer," he said quietly, "if I die, transmit all data to Earth. Military priority 1. Tell them what happened here. Tell them they are coming." The computer acknowledged with a soft beep, took a deep breath, and opened the communication channel. "Warship, this is Captain of the human scout vessel Eternal Horizon. I have considered your offer." He paused, letting them think he was about to surrender. "My answer is no. You brought 300 ships to fight one human. That tells me everything I need to know about how much you fear us. So come and get me. Let's see if your entire armada can handle one scout ship." He cut the transmission before they could respond. His hands moved to the flight controls. The Eternal Horizon leaped forward, accelerating toward the gap between 2 battleships. Plasma fire erupted from a dozen directions, brilliant blue and green bolts that lit up space like a deadly light show. Threw his ship into a spiral, dodging the first wave of fire. His shields absorbed 3 hits, flaring bright white before stabilizing. He returned fire, his laser cannons targeting the sensor arrays on the nearest ship. The lasers were too weak to penetrate their hull, but they could blind them temporarily. The ship veered off, giving him a precious few seconds. He launched his first missile. The weapon streaked toward a frigate, weaving through defensive fire. It struck the ship's engine section, and the frigate exploded in a ball of orange flame. One down, 299 to go. The formation adjusted, ships moving to close the gaps. Dove under their firing pattern, using the gravity well of a nearby asteroid to slingshot himself toward another cluster of enemy vessels. His shields were down to 60%. His starboard laser cannon had overheated, but he was still moving, still fighting. He fired another missile, then another. 2 more ships took damage, one losing its shields completely. Ship shuddered as plasma bolts finally found their mark, burning through his rear armor. Warning lights flashed across every panel. His engine output dropped by 30%. But he kept moving. He danced through the asteroid field, using the rocks as cover. His sensors showed him patterns in the enemy formation, weaknesses he could exploit. He destroyed a small cruiser by luring it too close to an asteroid, then firing his lasers at the rock. The explosion caught the cruiser's engines, and it spun out of control into another enemy ship. Time became meaningless. Fought with everything he had, every trick he had learned in 15 years of service. He was a ghost in the darkness, appearing just long enough to strike before vanishing again. The Armada, built for overwhelming power, struggled to pin down his small, agile vessel. He destroyed 6 ships. He crippled 8 more. He made them pay for every meter of space. But there were too many. Slowly, inevitably, they wore him down. His shields failed. His engines lost power. His weapons overheated and went offline. The final plasma bolt hit his reactor core, felt the ship breaking apart around him. In his last moment, he smiled. He had shown them what one human could do. He had made 300 ships work for his death. Message transmitted, the computer said calmly. Then there was only light. The recording played on the main screen in the Terran Command Center. Every member of the High Council sat in silence, watching Captain fight and die. They watched his small ship dance between enemy fire. They watched him destroy vessel after vessel with nothing but skill and determination. They watched the final explosion that ended his life. When the screen went dark, nobody spoke for a long moment. President sat at the head of the table, her face carved from stone. She had known personally. He had been decorated 3 times for excellence in service. He had been the kind of officer who made humanity proud. Admiral Menu was the first to break the silence. He was an old man, gray-haired and from decades of military service. His voice was rough when he spoke. The message is clear. They want war. They sent 300 warships to kill 1 scout ship. This was not about territory or resources. This was about sending us a message. Then we need to send them one back, said Captain. She stood near the back of the room, her fists clenched at her sides. She had watched her brother die on that screen. Tears ran down her face, but her voice was steady. They think we will be afraid. They think we will negotiate or retreat. We need to show them they are wrong. Director stood up, her tablet displaying classified intelligence reports. She was the head of military intelligence, responsible for monitoring all threats to human space. The situation is worse than we thought. Our agents have confirmed that they have been building up forces along our entire border. They have mobilized 8 armadas, over 2,000 warships total. The attack on Captain was meant to be the opening move of a full invasion. The room erupted in noise. Council members shouted questions and objections. Some demanded immediate military action. Others argued for diplomacy, for trying to negotiate peace before the situation escalated further. The arguments grew louder and more heated with each passing minute. President stood up and the room fell silent. She looked at each council member in turn, her eyes hard. I have listened to all of your concerns. I understand the fear. The Dominion controls 40 star systems. Their military is 3 times the size of ours. A war with them could destroy us." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then she continued, "But if we do nothing, they will interpret it as weakness. They will attack our colonies. They will enslave our people. They will exterminate us slowly, system by system, until humanity is nothing but a memory." Captain understood this. That is why he fought. That is why he died, sending us the information we needed to survive. Admiral Minu nodded. "What do you propose, Madam President?" "Total war," said simply. "We mobilize every ship, every soldier, every resource we have. We strike them before they can complete their invasion preparations. We hit them so hard that they never threaten us again." "That is insane," said Counselor, an elderly man who represented the outer colonies. "We cannot win a war against them. The mathematics are against us. We will lose millions of lives." "We will lose billions if we do nothing," said sharply. "My brother died buying us time. Are we going to waste his sacrifice by hiding and hoping the enemy goes away?" President raised her hand for silence. "I am not asking for a vote. As president, I am authorized to declare a state of emergency and mobilize our military. But I want to know if this council stands with me. Will you support the defense of humanity, even if the cost is high?" One by one, the council members stood up. Even Counselor eventually rose to his feet, his face troubled but resolute. They understood the stakes. This was not about politics or personal ambition. This was about survival. Admiral Minu stepped forward. "I will need complete authority over military operations. No interference from politicians, no debates about tactics. If we are going to war, we do it properly." "You have it," President agreed. "What do you need?" "Time and ships," Minu said. "I need 3 weeks to mobilize our forces. I need every shipyard working at maximum capacity. I need the reserve fleets activated and the colonial militias armed. And I need Captain to lead our first strike." Looked up in surprise. "Sir, you know the better than anyone now. You have studied that recording 100 times. You understand how they think, how they fight, and you have personal motivation to succeed." Admiral Minu met her eyes. "Can you do this?" "Yes, sir," said without hesitation. "Give me a fleet and I will find the ships that killed my brother. I will destroy them." "You will have 47 vessels, destroyers, frigates, and 1 light carrier. Your mission is simple: find the 3rd Armada and eliminate it. Show them what happens when they attack humanity." The meeting continued late into the night. Plans were drawn up, resources allocated, and orders issued. The machinery of war began to turn, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Across human space, shipyards received priority orders. Factories retooled to produce weapons and ammunition. Soldiers reported to duty, many of them civilians just days before. Stood on the observation deck of her new flagship, the destroyer Vengeance Protocol. It was a powerful ship, armed with the latest weapons and shielding technology. From here, she could see dozens of other vessels preparing for departure. Engineers swarmed over their hulls, making final adjustments. Supply ships delivered fuel and ammunition. Fighter craft ran practice maneuvers between the larger ships. Her second-in-command commander joined her at the window. He was younger than her, but he had proven himself in several border skirmishes. His tactical mind was sharp, and he did not panic under pressure. "The crew is ready," he reported. "All systems are green. We can depart within the hour." "Good," said. She looked out at her fleet, and felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. These were her people now. Their lives depended on her decisions. "What do you think of our chances?" Was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, they have superior numbers and firepower, but they are arrogant. They think we are weak. That gives us an advantage." "My brother made them pay for that arrogance," said softly. 6 ships destroyed, 8 more damaged. 1 human in a scout vessel did that. Imagine what we can do with 47 warships. We will make them regret ever hearing the word human, said with quiet intensity. Nodded, she thought about his final message. He had died so that humanity would have a chance to prepare. He had bought them time with his life. Now it was her job to make sure that sacrifice meant something. Send the order to all ships, she said. We depart in 1 hour. Destination, space. Mission, find and destroy the Third Armada. No mercy, no prisoners, no surrender. Saluted and moved to relay the orders. Remained at the window watching the stars. Somewhere out there, they were celebrating their victory over one human ship. They thought they had won. They were about to learn how wrong they were. They had sent an armada to crush one ship. Humanity was about to show them what a real armada looked like. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of predators. 47 ships, each one hungry for revenge. Captain stood on the bridge of the Vengeance Protocol, studying the tactical display. They had been hunting the Third Armada for 6 days, following a trail of destruction across 3 star systems. They were not subtle. They burned colonies as they passed, leaving behind dead worlds and floating debris. Crew had found the remains of a settlement on the 3rd day. They were a peaceful species, farmers and artists who had never harmed anyone. They had destroyed their orbital stations and bombarded their planet until nothing lived. Contact ahead, Commander announced. Reading life signs on the 4th planet. Small population, maybe a few thousand survivors. Take us in, ordered, but keep the fleet on alert. This could be a trap. The Vengeance Protocol and 2 escort frigates descended into the planet's atmosphere. The world below was beautiful once, covered in blue forests and silver oceans. Now, smoke rose from burning cities. The forests were ash. The oceans were polluted with debris from destroyed ships. They landed near the largest cluster of life signs, led a small team of Marines into what remained of a city. Buildings had collapsed. Streets were cratered from orbital bombardment. Bodies lay everywhere, civilians who had been caught in the open when the attack came. An elderly emerged from a damaged building. His skin was pale blue, his 6 limbs moving slowly. He looked at the humans with large, sad eyes. Are you here to finish what they started? No, said gently. We are hunting them. Can you tell us what happened here? The elder, who introduced himself as explained, they had demanded tribute from his people, food, resources, and workers to serve in their empire. When they refused, the Armada came. 300 ships appeared in orbit and began firing. They destroyed everything in hours. Then they moved on, looking for their next target. Why asked, why do they do this? Because they can, said bitterly. They have done this for centuries. They conquer, enslave, and destroy. Dozens of species have fallen to them. We are just the latest. And when they are done with us, they will move on to you. They already tried, said. They killed my brother, destroyed his ship with 300 of their own, but he fought back. He damaged their fleet and sent us information about their tactics. Now we are going to use that information to destroy them. Looked at her with something like hope in his eyes. You will fight them, truly fight them. We will do more than fight, promised. We will win. Can you tell us where they went? Gave them coordinates. The Third Armada was heading toward a gas giant called Crown, planning to raid a mining colony there. Thanked him and ordered medical supplies to be delivered to the survivors. It was not much, but it was something. Back on her ship, called a meeting of her senior officers. The tactical room was small, dominated by a holographic display showing the region around Crown. Commander had already marked the most likely positions for the fleet. They are getting comfortable, said. Their formation is loose. They are not expecting resistance. 300 ships against a mining colony. They think it will be easy. That is their mistake, said. She studied the display, her mind working through tactical options. We have 47 ships. They have 300. Direct confrontation would be suicide, but we have one advantage. They do not know we are coming. She pointed to the gas giant. Crown has massive storms and radiation fields. Our stealth systems can hide us inside the radiation. We wait until the fleet is close to the mining colony, focused on their attack. Then we strike from inside the gas giant. Maximum surprise, maximum damage. That is risky, said Commander, her chief engineer. The radiation could fry our systems, and if they detect us before we are ready, we will be trapped. Risk is all we have, said. My brother faced 300 ships alone, we have 47. I will take those odds. The fleet moved into position over the next 2 days. They entered Crown's upper atmosphere, hiding in the swirling storms. The radiation was intense, forcing them to shut down non-essential systems to avoid detection. They waited in silence, each ship maintaining radio silence. On the 3rd day, they arrived. 300 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their formation spreading across space like a metal cloud. Watched them through her sensors, her heart pounding. These were the ships that had killed. She recognized some of them from the sensor logs, saw the same energy signatures. Admiral's flagship was in the center of the formation, a massive dreadnought twice the size of any human ship. Memorized its position. That would be her primary target when the time came. They began their attack on the mining colony. Plasma bolts streamed from their weapons, striking the colony's shields. The miners fought back with automated defense platforms, but they were badly outnumbered. It was only a matter of time before the colony fell. All ships transmitted on the encrypted channel. Prepare to engage, target the center of their formation. Focus fire on the heavy cruisers and carriers. Ignore the small ships for now. We hit hard and fast, then withdraw before they can reorganize. Her finger hovered over the firing command. She thought about his last stand against impossible odds. She thought about Elder and his destroyed world. She thought about every human colony that would burn if they were not stopped here. For she whispered, for humanity, attack. 47 human ships exploded out of the gas giant, their weapons already firing. They appeared at point-blank range, inside the formation. Missiles streaked through space, each one guided by the tactical data had died to collect. The missiles knew exactly where the ships were weakest, exactly where to strike for maximum damage. The first volley destroyed 12 capital ships before they could even raise their shields. Explosions rippled through the enemy formation. Its destroyer led the charge, her laser cannons tearing through a heavy cruiser's hull. The cruiser broke apart, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. They scrambled to respond, but they were in chaos. Ships collided with each other as they tried to turn to face the unexpected attack. Human fighters swarmed around the larger vessels, targeting their engines and weapon systems. Frigates darted in and out of the enemy formation, launching torpedoes at close range. Commander coordinated the assault with cold precision. He identified weak points in the formation and directed ships to exploit them. Every attack was calculated for maximum efficiency. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship supporting the others. Admiral's voice crackled over the open communication channel. All ships, regroup, focus fire on the human vessels, destroy them. But it was too late. The formation was already breaking apart, 20 ships destroyed, 30 damaged, and the human fleet was not slowing down. They pressed the attack, moving deeper into the enemy ranks. The battle at Crown lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the space around the gas giant was filled with debris from destroyed ships. 218 enemy vessels had been destroyed or disabled. Only 82 escaped, fleeing in complete disorder. The human fleet had lost 9 ships and another 15 were damaged, but they had won. Captain stood on the bridge of the Vengeance Protocol, staring at Admiral's crippled flagship. Human Marines had boarded the vessel and secured it. The Admiral himself was in custody, along with his surviving crew. Wanted to speak with him personally. She found him in the ship's brig, sitting behind a force field. The admiral was tall for his scales dark green with age. One of his arms was broken from the battle, but his yellow eyes still held defiance. "You have made a terrible mistake," Human hissed. "The Dominion will send 10 armadas to avenge this defeat. 100 armadas. You cannot win this war." "Your emperor sent 300 ships to kill one of mine," said coldly. "That ship was captained by my brother. He was a scout, not a soldier. He was unarmed and alone, and he destroyed 6 of your vessels before you finally killed him." She leaned closer to the force field. "You came here expecting an easy victory. You thought the miners would surrender without a fight. Instead, you found us, and we destroyed your fleet. That is the difference between your people and mine. You fight because you want to conquer. We fight because we refuse to die." Said nothing, his eyes flickering with something that might have been fear, turned and left him there, locked in the brig of his own flagship. She had no more words for him. Her focus was on what came next. Back on Earth, the news of the victory spread quickly. President addressed the Terran Council with pride in her voice. "Captain has proven that they can be beaten, but this is only the beginning. Intelligence reports indicate the Dominion is mobilizing their grand fleet. Over 5,000 ships, the largest armada in their history. They are coming for us with everything they have." The mood in the council chamber was grim. Even with the victory at its crown, the mathematics were brutal. Humanity had maybe 1,600 warships. They had 5,000. Superior tactics could only overcome so much numerical advantage. Director stood to present new intelligence. "We have been developing a weapon that could change the situation. It is called the Cascade Array, based on quantum entanglement technology. In theory, it can disable multiple enemy ships simultaneously by linking their systems and overloading them. But it has never been tested in actual combat. We do not know if it will work." "How many ships can it affect?" Admiral Minu asked. "If it works perfectly, thousands. The effect spreads through any ships that are close together, but there are risks. The array requires massive amounts of power, and if it fails, our ships will be defenseless." President considered this. "We do not have many options. If we fight conventionally, we lose. Prepare the cascade arrays for deployment. We will test them in the coming battle." Meanwhile, Captain received an unexpected message. It came from Elder, the survivor she had met on the devastated planet. His message was urgent. "Captain, I have spoken with leaders from other species that they have oppressed. And others. We have watched your victory and it has given us hope. For the first time in centuries, someone has successfully fought back against the Dominion. We want to join you. We want to fight for our freedom." Read the message 3 times, hardly believing it. She immediately forwarded it to Admiral Minu and President. Within hours, delegations from a dozen alien species arrived at human space stations, each one offering ships and soldiers for the coming war. They brought 300 vessels, mostly frigates and corvettes. They were not heavily armed, but their ships were fast and their crews were motivated. The species contributed 200 ships with powerful boarding capabilities. They who lived in water-filled vessels brought 100 ships equipped with biological weapons that could disable life support systems. In total, the Allied fleet swelled to over 2,000 ships. It was still not enough to match the Grand Fleet, but it was closer. And more importantly, it represented something they had never faced before, a unified resistance of all the species they had terrorized. Admiral Minu organized a war council with representatives from each species. The meeting took place on the carrier Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Attended as the hero of Crown, her reputation giving her influence beyond her rank. "We cannot win through direct confrontation," Minu began. "They have too many ships, but we have advantages they do not. We have the cascade arrays, we have the element of surprise, and we have unity. The fight for conquest, we fight for survival." Elder spoke for "Where will this battle take place?" "The neutral zone," Minu said. highlighting a region of space on the display. It is filled with unstable stars and gravity anomalies. They will not expect us to fight there because it is dangerous for any fleet. But danger is what we need. In that environment, our smaller numbers and superior coordination will matter more than their raw firepower. A commander clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. You propose to bait them into a trap, but how do we lure 5,000 ships into such a dangerous region? We make them chase us, said. She stood and pointed to the display. We position our fleet at the edge of the neutral zone. When they arrive, we engage them briefly, inflict casualties, then retreat into the anomalies. Their pride will not allow them to let us escape. They will follow us into the trap. And if they do not follow? A representative asked, its voice bubbling through water-filled speakers. Then we have bought time for more colonies to evacuate, Minyu said. But I believe they will follow. The Emperor himself is leading this fleet. He will not accept being outsmarted by what he considers inferior species. The plan was approved. Over the next 3 weeks, the Allied fleet gathered at the coordinates. Every ship was equipped with a cascade array, the experimental weapons integrated into their systems. Engineers worked around the clock, installing the technology and running simulations. The arrays had to work perfectly, or the entire plan would collapse. Spent her time training with the other captains, running tactical drills that coordinated human and vessels. It was difficult at first. Each species had different communication protocols and fighting styles, but gradually they learned to work together. They became more than just a collection of ships. They became a unified force. On the eve of battle, recorded a message for her family. She sat alone in her quarters looking at the camera. Mother, father, if you are watching this, it means I did not survive. I want you to know that I died fighting for something important. Showed us that one person can make a difference. Now all of us, humans and aliens together, are trying to make a difference. We are fighting for the right to exist without fear. Whatever happens tomorrow, I am proud to be part of this. She sent the message, then went to the observation deck. Commander was already there looking at the stars. Nervous, she asked him. Terrified, he admitted, but also ready. To think they can crush us through numbers alone. They do not understand that numbers do not matter if you are fighting for nothing. They fight for an emperor. We fight for our homes, our families, our freedom. That makes us stronger. Nodded. In the distance, sensors detected the first ripples of the Grand Fleet approaching. 5,000 ships, the largest armada ever assembled. They were coming to end humanity forever. But humanity was not alone anymore, and humanity was ready to fight. The Grand Fleet arrived like a storm. 5,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their formation spreading across space in a wall of metal and weapons. At the center of the fleet was the Eternal Dominion, the personal flagship of Emperor. The vessel was enormous, larger than some human space stations, bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. Emperor stood on his command bridge, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Allied fleet ahead. 2,000 ships, barely a third of his forces. He had expected more resistance. The reports from Admiral before his capture had made these humans and their allies sound dangerous, but looking at the numbers, felt only contempt. Pathetic, he hissed to his generals. They have gathered everything they have, and it is still not enough. We will crush them in one battle and end this war before lunch. His fleet advanced in perfect formation, a demonstration of military might. 5,000 ships moving as one, their weapons charging, ready to unleash devastation. The Allied fleet waited at the edge of the neutral zone, their smaller numbers obvious against the backdrop of unstable stars. On the Vengeance protocol, Captain watched the enemy approach. Her hands were steady on the controls, though her heart raced. This was it. Everything they had fought for came down to this moment. Beside her, Commander coordinated with the other Allied ships, ensuring everyone understood their role in what was about to happen. Admiral Minyu to all ships, the communication system crackled. Remember the plan. We fight just long enough to hurt them, then we run, lead them into the zone, make them chase us, and when they are deep enough, we activate the arrays. Opened her own channel. All vessels, this is Captain. My brother died fighting 300 ships. He made them work for his death. Today, we make 5,000 ships regret they ever attacked humanity. For all those we have lost, for every species that has suffered under the Dominion. Today, we fight back. The Allied fleet opened fire first. 2,000 ships launched missiles and energy weapons at the advancing wall. The first volley destroyed 40 enemy vessels, their shields overwhelmed by concentrated fire. It was a good start, but barely a dent in the massive Armada. The returned fire with devastating force. Plasma bolts filled space, a deadly light show that turned the battlefield into hell. The Allied fleet's shields flared and buckled under the assault. 3 frigates exploded, their crews dying instantly. A cruiser lost its engines and began to drift, helpless. All ships fall back, Admiral Menu ordered. Execute retreat pattern Alpha, lead them in. The Allied fleet turned and fled into the neutral zone, their engines burning at maximum power. Behind them, the fleet surged forward in pursuit. Emperor laughed on his bridge. They run like cowards. All ships pursue and destroy. Show them there is nowhere they can hide from the Dominion. The chase led deeper into the zone, past stars that flickered with unstable radiation. Gravity wells created pockets of distorted space where normal physics broke down. It was dangerous territory, the kind of place most commanders avoided. But the Allied fleet navigated it expertly, using pre-plotted courses that took advantage of every safe channel. The confident in their numbers followed without caution. Their formation began to tighten as they tried to catch the fleeing ships. 5,000 vessels compressed into a smaller and smaller space, exactly as Admiral Menu had planned. They are in position, Commander reported. All enemy ships are within range of the cascade effect. Looked at her tactical display. The fleet formed a dense cluster, their ships almost touching each other in their eagerness to catch and destroy the Allied forces. It was perfect. She opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships stop engines and reverse course. Activate cascade arrays on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. Across the Allied fleet, every ship activated its cascade array simultaneously. The quantum entanglement fields expanded outward, invisible waves of energy that touched the nearest vessels. Then the effect spread, jumping from ship to ship through the tightly packed formation. In seconds, the entanglement field connected thousands of enemy vessels. The arrays pulsed. Energy surged through the quantum network, overloading every connected ship simultaneously. Shields collapsed. Weapons went offline. Life support systems flickered and died. Engine cores shut down completely. One moment the Grand Fleet was a mighty armada. The next it was 5,000 floating hulks, powerless and defenseless. Emperor stared at his displays in disbelief. Every system on his flagship was dead. Emergency lights cast the bridge in red shadows. His generals shouted in panic, trying to understand what had happened. Outside the viewports could see the same scene repeated across his entire fleet. Dead ships, drifting in space, completely helpless. All ships attack, ordered, no mercy. The Allied fleet fell upon the disabled Armada like wolves on wounded prey. Human fired at close range, punching through unshielded hulls. Particle beams sliced dreadnoughts in half. Boarding teams swarmed onto enemy vessels, fighting through the corridors. Biological weapons flooded life support systems, making the ships uninhabitable. It was not a battle. It was an execution. They could not fight back, could not defend themselves. They died by the hundreds, their mighty fleet reduced to wreckage and corpses. Some ships managed to reboot their systems and break free from the cascade effect, but they were immediately targeted by multiple Allied vessels and destroyed. Emperor watched his empire die. His engineers worked frantically to restore power, but it was too slow. Already, half his fleet was destroyed. His generals were silent now, knowing there was nothing they could do. The emperor who had thought himself invincible was learning what defeat felt like. On the Vengeance Protocol, Commander identified the Eternal Dominion. Captain, the Emperor's flagship is still intact but powerless. If we destroy it, the rest of the fleet will collapse completely. Studied the massive vessel on her display. This was the ship that commanded the Armada. This was where the orders had come from, the orders that killed and so many others. She felt no hesitation. All weapons target the Eternal Dominion, maximum firepower. Her ship, along with 20 others, focused their fire on the Emperor's flagship. Missiles streaked through space. Energy weapons carved through armor. The Eternal Dominion's shields tried to activate but failed, still disabled by the cascade effect. The weapons struck home, punching deep into the vessel's heart. The flagship's reactor went critical. Emperor had just enough time to realize what was happening before the explosion consumed him. The Eternal Dominion broke apart in a massive fireball visible across the entire battlefield. Chunks of the once mighty vessel spun away into space, burning as they fell into nearby gravity wells. With their emperor dead and flagship destroyed, the remaining ships stopped fighting. Some tried to flee, but most were too damaged or still powerless. The Allied fleet showed no mercy. They had suffered too much, lost too many to accept surrender now. They had come to exterminate humanity. Instead, humanity exterminated them. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, over 4,000 ships had been destroyed. Only 300 managed to escape, fleeing back toward Dominion space with tales of their defeat. The Allied fleet had lost 400 ships, heavy casualties but a small price for such a complete victory. Stood on her bridge, looking at the debris field that stretched as far as sensors could detect. She felt no joy in the victory, only exhaustion and relief. It was over. The threat was ended. Humanity was safe. "Captain," Commander said quietly, "we are receiving messages from across the fleet. Every ship is asking to speak with you. You are the hero of this war." "I am not a hero," was the hero. "He bought us the time we needed. All I did was finish what he started." But she knew that was not entirely true. Yes, had started this with his sacrifice, but it took all of them to finish it. Humans, working together against a common enemy. That unity was what defeated not any one person's heroism. 3 months later, representatives from the Dominion arrived at Earth with a surrender treaty. Their empire was collapsing, subject species rebelling now that the military was broken. The wanted peace wanted to avoid complete destruction. President negotiated terms that were fair but firm. They would release all subject species. They would pay reparations. They would never again threaten anyone. A memorial was built on Earth, a massive structure of black stone that listed every human who died in the war. At the top of the list was Captain, the first casualty and the man whose sacrifice started everything. Attended the dedication ceremony, along with thousands of others who had lost loved ones. As she stood before his name, she remembered his final message. "You brought 300 ships to fight one human. That tells me everything I need to know about how much you fear us." He had been right. The feared humanity, feared their determination and refusal to surrender, and that fear had become reality. Admiral Minu, now retired, stood beside her. "Your brother would be proud of what you accomplished." "We all accomplished it," said. "Every person who fought, every species that joined us. We did this together." She saluted the memorial, and across human space, every ship in the fleet did the same. The war was over. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity might be small. They might be outnumbered, but they would never, ever back down. And anyone who tried to crush them would learn what it meant to face a species that refused to die.